Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/Nerdery and Murdery. That's audibletrial.com/Nerdery and Murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Jeffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health, and really without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/Nerdery and Murdery. That's betterhelp.com/Nerdery and Murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. Welcome to a special Nerdery and Murdery. Zig's here. He didn't say anything. He forgot our open already. Outstanding.
I'm Zig, not with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to a special episode of the highs and lows, and the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. So this is our first author interview. I found out about this book, and Brian, I think it is, with that Johnny Trevisani that's with us, reached out to me and asked if we would if we'd be interested in interviewing Johnny, and I got the title for the book and read the synopsis, and I was like, yeah, I have to have this book. I am so morbidly fascinated with murders and serial killers, as a lot of us are. And I immediately went on Amazon. I immediately picked this book up. I had it in 2 days, and I started pairing through it. So we've got special guest here in the house. We're going to be talking with author Johnny Trevisani. His brand new book, The Serial Killer Guide, Travel Guide Across America, Your Coast to Coast Tour of Terror. It takes readers on a journey unlike any other, really. It's not your typical travel guide. Forget about roadside diners, quaint little motels, the world's ball's wall of twine. This is a 1960s style travel guide. It's equal parts history, psychology, gallows humor. And instead of of recommending a scenic overlook or a family-friendly amusement park, his book takes you into the shadowy forest, the creepy basements, infamous locations tied to some of America's most notorious serial killers. It's campy, it's unsettling, it's absolutely fascinating. It's not unsettling to me.
Absolutely not.
And honestly, for true crime fans, whether you're into dark tourism or just curious from the safety of your couch, this book promises to deliver a coast-to-coast look at America's darkest corners. As Johnny himself warns in the book, it might even leave you with the sudden urge to double lock your doors. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what inspired Johnny to write the book, how he researched some of these chilling locations, why so many of us can't look away from the stories of serial killers like me. And we'll also get in the balance between camp and respect, history and horror, and maybe even figure out which stop on this, quote, tour of terror is a must-see if you're brave enough to go. So, Johnny Trevisani, welcome to Nerdery and Murdery. We are so glad to have you here.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and thanks, Jeff, and thanks, Zig, for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
And really, before we get started, here's what I really want to know. I want to know about your drug and insanity problems that led to your marriage to crumble.
How do you get this idea?
It's in his book.
Well, if it hadn't been for the ketamine,
I've got my green screen behind me. But this is it. The book, The Serial Killer, Travel Guide Across America, Your Coast to Coast Tour of Terror. I cannot recommend this book enough. I am loving it. One of the things that I talked to Zig about this, something that I really wanted to do was do episodes about serial killers from every state. And so this book, I'm like, oh my gosh, here it is. And some of them I've done, but I love the format of this book. Are you familiar with Justin Nunley?
I am not.
So he's a guy who's got videos, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everything like that. He's so much like this book because he'll show something really weird, strange, or stupid, and then he immediately switches gears and goes, listen, did you know? And talk about a fact completely not related to it at all. And this reminded me so much of that because it's so funny. You go through this book and Johnny tells you about the local area and a little bit of piece about it. And then suddenly we're into a serial killer. Here we go. And we're going to talk about him. Johnny, what inspired you to create this book?
Well, I have a different type of humor, right? And
as do we.
Right. I mean, it might not be for everybody, but I think that I just have an offbeat kind of sense of humor. And so a couple of years ago, I was reading about the Long Island serial killer.
Lisk.
Yeah, Rex Heuermann, and he was he was accused. We have to say he's suspected, but of the Gilgo Beach murders.
Yep.
And I didn't, and I'm in the East Coast. I'm around Philly. Go Birds. And
okay, so we're ending the podcast now. Those of us who are in Texas and are Dallas Cowboys fans. No, I'm sorry. Continue.
Sorry. Not sorry. I've been up to Long Island many times, and so, but I never heard of Gilgo Beach before. So I was wondering where that was, and I just obviously searched. And so I searched and I was like, oh, you know what? I've been by there a few times. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I thought, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a travel guide? And, my mind went immediately to like those 1960s style, hey, while you're here, kind of travel guide. And so I did a little research and said, yeah, nobody really has that kind of sense of humor like me. So it's not there. It's there for the taking. So then I just started to write something to see if it actually would turn out to be a book, because, not every good idea is a book, right? So I wrote it, and as I was writing it, I was kind of laughing and I was enjoying it. I mean, I know this is a dark subject, but making it in a lighter format, I still think is kind of an interesting.
Yeah. I mean, just because you make light of a situation doesn't necessarily mean you take a situation lightly.
I don't.
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
certainly don't paint the victims in a light way. I mean, I still, um, the murders are still gruesome, but most of the killers are idiots. So,
Yes.
I mean, they're not the brightest. I mean, they're not really thought out in the way that they're going to kill someone. So the way they get caught is kind of interesting throughout the book. You'll find there's many people that you were thinking, well, what were you really thinking there? Because you're going to get caught, right? Um, so so I just started to write it, and then I threw it to Brian. I said, "Hey, Brian, I have a new idea for a book. What do you think?" And he was immediately, supportive of it and was all over it, and so just sort of jumped from there.
That's fantastic. And it's funny you mentioned the Gilgo Beach murders or the Gilgo Beach Four. We've actually done two episodes on them. We did our original episode, and then after the arrest, I was like, "There's a whole bunch of new information, and I'm going to do another episode." And I covered it again from a very different angle. So that's really interesting that you said that. And you talk about that, most of the serial killers are not smart. Some of them are very smart for a very long time. You wrote about one of them, Israel Keys.
Hmm.
Very
We
smart
covered
with
him
what he
too.
did for a very yeah, we did for a very long time. Um, but you touched on a point. I talk about this in our show quite a bit. Is number one the respect for the victim, because when I choose the subject that I'm going to talk about, I do it because I believe the victims deserve a name, and I
Hmm.
believe their name deserves to be out there. One of the first regrets I have in our show is we did our first episode, which was very humorous and campy about a murder attempt to eventual murder, that was very funny in how it went. Episode two was an insanely serious subject. And I
Mm.
almost regret that because I think we took fans that thought, oh, this is going to be fun all the time. And then I went dark, real dark with episode two. So I've always kind of regretted doing it in that order. I don't regret doing the story, but in that order. Um, so when you talk about that, you talk about giving voice to the victims, you talk about being respectful of the victims. The tone of the book itself is both unsettling and campy at the same time. How do you balance gallow humor with respect for the victims?
If you obviously, if you're reading the book, you'll see that the victims are not painted in a funny way. They're not painted in a humorous way. Um, they're typically painted they were victims. They were unassuming victims that a, you know, ran afoul with an awful human being. Um, some cases I list the people. Sometimes I don't. Um, some locations I explicitly call out. Some I don't. Because in the research of this book, I've been to a number of places, but in many of the cases you're researching, they're not there anymore. The locations are not there, and obviously I go back 100 years. I'm going back a long time, so you're not going to see very much, right? You're probably going to see a Walmart now, if you go back to some of these locations, and so. But the idea is that you could be in this location that horrible things happen, and um, for example, if you go to L.A. and you go to Glass Hill Park, Glass Hill Park's still there. It's still a nice park. It's a very nice park to visit. But that's where Richard Ramirez killed people.
Yep.
And to visit that park in its current day, it's kind of that dichotomy between wow, this is beautiful and it's also dark. And I'm going to paint the killer or the descriptions of the killer a little bit more lightly, and especially the area. I can make fun of the area pretty well. If I
Yeah,
think I've
there's some
been
good
equal
stuff about
opportunity,
Massachusetts in there.
been a pretty equal opportunity throughout the country, of highlighting some of the humorous areas of it. And so, in my research, I would look for um, locations that were interesting, not just the uh, the most popular places. And I also did that with the serial killers. That there's a number of serial killers I bet you most people didn't never even heard of. And I wanted to make sure that there was a good number of serial killers that were represented that people never heard of, so they can actually maybe learn the new ones. I mean, obviously Bundy's in there and Gacy and such, but Bundy was actually, and Ramirez, sure, Ramirez. Bundy was a difficult one in that I associated him with the Pacific Northwest, so in Washington, and that kind of makes sense, right? We went there for school. There's a story there, but he killed a lot of people, and he killed a lot of people all over the country. Same thing with Israel Keys. Israel Keys, he was a monster and was all over the country, leaving his murder kits all over. So, but I primarily put him up in Israel Keys in Vermont. So. You make these editorial decisions as you go along.
Well, and you touched on it for a second. Did you discover any lesser known serial killers or stories during your research that surprised you?
Yeah. So either I'm burying the lead or I'm not, because you said you wanted to highlight an area that is truly unique, and I love talking about this. Have you ever been to Alexandria, Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. Right. I've been. It's a very little quaint little city, cobblestones. It's really nice.
Cobblestone streets, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that there are 2 serial killers from there? Whenever I mention that,
Alexandria is really small.
I know, right? And it just blew my mind that there was 2 serial killers, and one I like to talk about. His name is Charles Severance, and Charles Severance, he was considered to be the grudge killer, and that was his moniker, because he kind of had a grudge with the people he killed. He was, let's just say, if you ever thought what Santa Claus would look like after a crack binge, that's what he would look like, right? So
you're taking a piss out the bad guys. I love it.
And he was also he ran for Congress, and he ran for mayor of Alexandria twice. He lost, and I don't think he liked that, because shortly after he lost the bid to go to Congress, then he started his murder, and he for over a decade he was killing.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. Right. So you think that's just really odd to me. That was really odd to me to discover in quaint little Alexandria, Virginia, which is a beautiful little city. To see that there 2 came from there. I'm from Philly, so there's a number from Philly.
Yes.
I would expect it from Philly. Come on.
Right.
Well, yeah, but Philly's also like 300 years old too. Well, exactly. So's Alexandria.
You're right.
Right. Do you know and or do you believe in the McDonald triad?
I don't believe in the McDonald triad.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and it kind of was it was disproved, right? I mean, there's an interesting thing about because the McDonald triad almost relies on a nature format to it, and I don't believe that. I mean, I study psychology, and so not that there's an expert. I'm not an expert. I should preface this. I am not an expert. I'm just a curious goofball, and so but when you study early childhood development, a lot of things can go wrong, and many serial killers have awful early childhood development, and they don't have attachment theory. They don't have a lot of things that most people grow up with, So that's why I don't believe with the McDonald triad.
And we've talked about this on our show.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh no,
sure. You? So should we go into debate?
I think there's points to it, and we've covered so many. Every time I cover one, I try to look at it. In their past, did they have abuse?
So have I. Yep.
Did they wet the bed past an appropriate age? Did they farm small animals or set fires? Right. Because all those the abuse is
blunt force head trauma too.
Blunt force head trauma we've seen for just killers versus just serial killers. I know there have been some serial killers that fall outside of the McDonald triangle, so that's why it's not totally proven. But there seems to be a lot of them that abuse was in their background. They harmed small animals. That was taking power back. The same was setting fire. That's taking power back.
We do have
When
a saying on our show that, hey, if you don't want to make serial killers, don't beat your kids.
right. Right, because so many of them, it seems to be common. So it's just interesting. I like to ask that anybody that knows about the McDonald triad, because we talk about this from time to time to our show. Do I believe it? I don't know. I ride the fence on that one.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard it, I was intrigued as well, and I started looking, and I started to and try to apply that principle to many of the serial killers you studied. But I think when you jump to, it's just my opinion. My opinion means nothing. I just want to understand. My opinion means zero. But since you're asking, that
You could tell this guy's from Philly.
just give me some batteries. I'll throw them at Santa. They will practice. They want to see what the murder feels like.
Sure.
So it's easy. They go after easy targets. They're going to go after easy targets like animals, and then they can elevate from there. But many don't kill animals, and many start as as rapists.
Yes.
Right, and they elevate from there. So that's why I was saying that I don't think you can put one blanket over it all. I think having an awful childhood does not set you up for success. I mean,
sure.
But when you talk about one killer is Charles. Do you know Carl Panzram?
Yes.
So Carl Panzram, man, if there was ever a guy that embodied evil, and I don't believe in the concept of an evil person, but he really truly embodied that evil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was that guy. If you ever come up across him, you're either going to get raped or you're going to get killed, right? Like those are the two options. So you didn't want to meet him. But where does that level of evil come from? Like, and he had an awful childhood. He didn't have a good childhood. He wasn't set up for success. And I have a fun fact about him, by the way. Because there's fun facts in my book. That's another thing. So I carried from the first book to the second book. The Carl Panzram fun fact is he was in World War One, and he served in World War One, and he was tried, court-martialed, and tried and found guilty and sentenced to Leavenworth. And the person that signed the papers for him to go to Leavenworth was the Secretary of War at that time. Now we're back into Secretary of War times now, right? But back then it was called Secretary of War, and he and that was William Taft, who later became president.
Yes.
Right? And then after Taft became president, he became a Supreme Court justice. Okay? While Taft was a Supreme Court justice, he wasn't home at the time, but Carl Panzram broke into his house and stole his
I remember this. Yes.
And he killed 10 people with it.
Yes.
Wow.
I do remember that because we have an episode over Carl Panzram, and I now remember that he broke into Taft's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Huh.
Yep.
How long did the book take from idea to publication?
A couple years. The idea happened, I don't know, by now around 2 years ago from here.
I imagine you probably had to boil that around up in your head for a little bit too.
Yeah, and that was kind of, if you remember the Homer doll that had the monkey going like this, that was what was going on with me. So I was just trying to figure it out and how it would lay out. And I went over different, did I want to make sure I hit every state? Did I want to have a trail? There was a lot of different things were going in here. How did I want to set up? Did I want to go from one area of the country and just follow it down and then go across? As a travel guide, across the whole country is a big thing. So, but I wanted to make it engaging and fun, and I wanted it so you could, hey, if you do travel, you can bring it with you, and then you can say, hey, while I'm here, I might want to go to this place. I mean, it's set up to do that, but it's also set up just to sit and read, at home and on your couch. So I wrote a number of things first, played around with it to see what I liked, and then that took a little while before then I talked to Brian to see if he thought it'd be cool. He liked it. Then we kind of went off from there. I still started writing a bunch of stuff, but it still wasn't set on the true format of it. So it just takes a little while for it to percolate.
Sure. And true crime is massive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes to our show, we're on Good Pod. We're ranked number 2 in nerd culture podcasts, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
I don't think we will ever crack the top 100 in true crime because there's so many out there.
Millions.
Yeah, and some that have been doing it a very long time. Why do you think so many people are fascinated with true crime and serial killers?
All you have to do is turn on Netflix and Hulu, and you'll see that it's filled with that genre of true crime and even like fictitious crime. Like people are intrigued by serial killers. I think more so than spree killers and mass murderers. And I'm not trying to say that that's not awful, but Charles Whitmore, from the bell tower, is not going to scare you as much as somebody you're standing behind in a grocery store,
Right.
and that's sort of what is intriguing and super scary about serial killers. You have people like, the BTK killer who was a deacon in his church, and, he had a normal
fine,
job.
upstanding citizen.
Pretty much. I mean, like
citizen.
by that cult, in Wichita, sure. Like he did all the right things, except he had a really strange hobby. And, he,
what the way you put that?
But that's a scary thing. You could be behind him, you can go to the church and meet him, and he'll go through all the rituals with church. But, that's what makes it scary. These are people that most of the time, you can take Charles Severance out of it. But most of the time they just look like they're normal people that are working, they have a job.
Well, the guy down in Houston.
Green River Killer. I've just lost his name. I'll get it in a minute. Green River Killer is a perfect example of someone you're talking about. Dadgummit, why have I just lost the name? You're talking about the kid down in Houston, right?
No, the guy that buried all the kids in the boathouse.
Yes. Yeah. That's what he was a kid. He
was
not
he a kid?
Well, he was a young adult.
Okay.
Oh, talk for a second.
Candyman, the Candyman. I'm so sorry. I just totally disreal.
No. You're fine because it's bothering me.
You're talking about Green Ridge, Gary Ridgway?
No,
it was down in Houston.
Yeah, I'll have it here in just a second. It bothers me that I don't have it on the top of my head because that was a fascinating one I covered.
It wasn't just him. He actually had he picked up a kid who actually was helping him.
Dean Coral.
Yeah,
yep.
Dean Coral. Yeah, sure.
God, that was episode 9.
Yeah, wow, that's
way
a long
back
time
when.
ago.
Hey, he played trombone in high school.
Yes.
Did he?
Yes.
That must be a fun fact.
So for me, the reason I got so fascinated with true crime and serial killers, and another one of my fascination is cults, is the psychologist in me that never became a psychologist because I'm not a licensed psychologist. I do not have training in psychology. I have classes. But the psychology behind serial killers, the psychology behind cults, things like that, fascinated me. And it wanted me to learn more and cover more. How do you think psychology plays into the way that you presented these stories?
For me, I would say 100%. I mean, from my first book to this book, the first book I have, is the serial killer quote of the day. And it's their words.
I'm buying that.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'm buying that, and I'm going to start using that at work.
Well, but I thought researching that book was more difficult than researching this book. And I'll tell you why. So I had to. Going through trial, you know, um, uh, all public records. So you have trial records and such, and you're hearing their words, and it's truly unique because it really gets into the psyche of them. And so it gets into their way of thinking. Like what got me started on that book was the Jeffrey Dahmer quote, my refrigerator broke and the meat spoiled. And that's what he told people, the police that showed up and said, there's this really odd smell coming from your apartment, and they were investigating it. That's what he told them. So that made me immediately go down this huge rabbit hole of like, that's really interesting. So I started researching, and it was super scary. So, meaning like you're hearing their words and you're getting kind of in their mind in the way that they think, and it's not a happy place. Um, and the hard part for me researching that book was which quotes I chose, because I had people like Albert Fish in that book, and to choose an Albert Fish quote, I needed to literally walk away from my keyboard and go for a walk because, he was an awful person, awful human. And so that was more difficult to me than the ones that are related in this book.
We've talked about this on our show. Our recording schedule, we record 3 episodes every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So every 2 weeks, I'm researching 3 cases, whether they're cults, true crime, disappearances, so on and so on.
If they're long, sometimes we only do 2, but yeah, for the most part, it's 3.
Zig on the opposite side, he's on vacation this week, and he's just researching episodes.
I wrote 10 episodes today.
But where I was going with that is, in that 2-week period, honestly, 3 is the most I can take. Number one, I can't keep that much in my head that is that dark for that. As much as our listeners probably think I'm an insanely dark person because of the subject matter I cover, I'm not. I'm just fascinated by it. And yeah, there's been many times I've had to walk away. The episode 2 that I talked about, Sylvia Likens, I almost cried during the episode. The Green River Killer, when one of the victim's family, I read their what they said in court to him word for word. I almost cried on the show because sometimes these just really tear me up, and I've got to walk away. So I can absolutely appreciate what you're saying there. But you had mentioned Jeffrey Dahmer for that book. Was it that, or was there another specific case that first got you interested in true crime?
Typically I'm asked who is your favorite serial killer, which is not the correct question, but I'm asked that question. And so the way I answered it is that Ed Kemper, to me, and he was featured on Manhunter, but I knew him well before Manhunter, was to me a prototypical serial killer. He truly had a serial mind. Like he had it. He was he had a high IQ. And he was gruesome, and his quotes were very gruesome, but also it sort of explained his mind, the way that he was thinking it. Like he was almost scientific in the way that he approached.
Very matter of fact.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Once he was caught, he was like, very matter of fact.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he gave himself up, and they didn't believe him because he was a friend of the cops, right? So he used to hang out at their bar. But quotes like, actually, blood is a pain in the ass. Like, I wouldn't know that, but he would, right? So he would know that, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. And so his quotes, because he hated his mother. Then that's another prototype. Like he despised his mother, wanted to kill his mother, and he wanted to do it in a certain way, so he practiced on others, and that was part of the practice. But he has I found empathy in him because his first kills, and this is also part of the uniqueness getting me involved in this in researching serial killers, was his story was really unique because he killed his grandparents first, right? And he killed his grandmother and the quote is, "I just wanted to see what it'd be like to kill my grandmother." Like, it was a really odd quote. But then he said that he realized that his grandfather was coming home and he didn't want his grandfather to see his grandmother. So he just killed him before he saw her, which the empathy part, like his grandparents were actually relatively nice in his upbringing. And I say relatively because his grandmother really wasn't great, but considering his childhood with his actual parents was kind of crazy. But what drew me to that story is that he was punctual because he had to go to court ordered psychiatric visits, and then he had killed somebody, and he had still body parts in the trunk of the car when he went to an appointment. And you got to think, well, he's pretty punctual. I'm not going to miss this.
Right.
I'm going to just leave it in the car. So, I mean, who thinks that way? But he did. And so I always thought that Ed Kemper was the most, to me, really, really intriguing from a psychological perspective because I don't understand it. But, his mother locked him in a basement for a good chunk of his life, and she was completely awful. Like, so, yeah. Ed Kemper.
I'm with you. I don't understand it either. And you hit the nail on the head with when people ask, what is your favorite serial killer? That's not the proper way to ask that. The proper way is, what is which one fascinates you the most?
Right. Yeah, that's a much better
because
question.
Having a favorite, that's a little creepy. I don't have a favorite. My most fascinating one is Israel Keith because he had no MO.
Right.
He would literally
Completely
pick
random.
out people at random. And sometimes he would go bury that kill kit in a town and come back years later and literally just walk along and point at a house and go, "That's it. That's the one I'm hitting." So he fascinated me with that. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
I mean, he went for over a decade.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All over the country.
And he only got caught because he got stupid.
Right. There you go.
He had always said he wasn't going to kill close to home. He did it, and from there everything went downhill. When you speak about the serial killer quotes, and then this one, when you decided to get these published, did you get any pushback from publishers about the theme or tone of the book?
So not with the first book. I got Serial Killer Quote of the Day when that came out. I did receive some backlash from people who read it. Thought that I was glorifying things that shouldn't be glorified or not taking it seriously enough. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm just taking a different tact on things. I'm not dishonoring the victims. I'm just telling a story the different way. This book, one of the publishers that was interested in this, who ultimately decided not to because they thought it was too controversial. We went down a long conversation for a couple months, back and forth, me changing some things here and there. They were worried about whether the currency of the kills of the murders, because they thought maybe the family members were still alive, and I'm respectful of that. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to highlight things that people don't want highlighted, but most people can. Obviously, Jeff, you can research these things yourself. Everybody can if you have that interest. But I was interested. I was kind of surprised by the publisher that thought it was too controversial, because I really don't think what I'm writing about hasn't. It's just a different style. Most of this isn't combined into one big book. Now it is, and it takes you on a different trail. So it's going to be a different vibe to it, and that's the only thing I think that's different. And I didn't see the controversy, but they did. But with Wild Blue, they were all in. As soon as it was brought to them, they loved it.
They just like the concept. They like the idea.
They did. They were all in. It was great.
Nice.
So, if someone were to pick up the book and actually plan a trip using your book,
Mhm.
Which stop would you say is a must see for understanding the scope of America's serial killers?
If you go the West Coast, if you go into the far west, you can take the from the Green River, and you can go down the coast, and you'll
Pacific
hit
Coast Highway.
Pacific Coast Highway. You'll just take that all the way down, and you'll hit so many places along the way. It was such a hotbed of. Now I don't have that listed as an actual trail or a route, or a route in the book, but it is. You can. I go from top down, so I go from Washington down to California, and then go over to Honolulu, because that was another thing that freaked me out, was Honolulu. But I'll come back to that. But if you just take if you take the Pacific Highway down, you'll hit a number of spots. I mean, you'll hit some of the big names, So you'll start from Bundy going to Green River, and you can hit the Zodiac and the Ramirez, and also down to Ed Kemper and Henry Mullen.
This is the pin for Honolulu, just so you wouldn't forget it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so Honolulu was another crazy research discovery, because I didn't think that such a beautiful place would have a serial killer. But Honolulu has the Honolulu Strangler, and between 85 and 86, 5 people were killed in the same fashion, which is, to me, mind-blowing, because even in paradise, you're not.
No,
It seems like I would remember that 85 and 86.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember anything about that.
well,
Is it not published?
and I can really understand what you mean about not believing in paradise there could be a serial killer. I mean, we're from Texas. How could there be one here? Philadelphia? Sure. Whatever. No, I'm sorry.
Well, wait a second.
I'm just kidding you.
No, I get it, but
We've had a ton here.
Yeah,
We've got a lot. It's the heat.
Interstate
It drives us
45.
crazy.
Can I just say Interstate 45? The killing fields. So
come on,
they call it the Texas killing fields.
Yeah, that was a very recent episode.
Because they're full of swamps, man.
Right. I mean, I know. I get it.
Were there any stories that you left out that you wish you had included?
Samuel Little was one that I left out, and I talked about having the Samuel Little like a map embedded in it, like a graphic, and pinpoint his travails across the country, because he went across, all over. He touched so many states, and that was one thing that I thought that would be an interesting thing, but it was just tough to get into the book.
Which location gave you the biggest chills while you were researching?
The Texas killing fields, because it's so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a long ride, and if you were to ride down that road, just think of the 30 plus people that were killed there. I mean,
I go down there all the time to go see my dad.
Well,
it is all swamps.
We've talked about this on the show many times, because we've got listeners from all over the country, and there are people who have never been here that don't understand how unbelievably big Texas is.
Yeah.
Zig and
I've
I
always sort of described Texas to me as sort of like a pop-up. You remember the pop-up books?
Mm-hmm.
When it popped up like that, because you'd be just driving out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden a city would pop up, and then you drive through it, and then you're back to flat again.
That's how it can be. So yeah, it's not surprising we have a lot here.
Yeah, he moved like 8 hours away.
9.
We're still both in Texas,
and we're still in the same state.
I like that he added the extra hour on there.
Yes,
to make sure you knew it was another.
You got to stop for a bathroom break somewhere. That's a long.
Yes.
It's a long drive. Our friends of another show live up in St. Louis, and they came down to Dallas-Fort Worth to meet up with us.
By the way, you have the best barbecue in Dallas-Fort Worth.
That we do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, not Dallas Fort Worth. You need to go farther south and go into Lockhart, Texas.
Angelo's.
Yes.
Angelo's the best barbecue in Texas, and I will fight you for that.
Angelo's is not the best barbecue in Texas. It absolutely is not. Angelo's is good. It's not even the best in DFW. So, yeah.
No.
It sounds like
now I'm gonna go get him a flavor. We're gonna have a fist fight.
In Philly, we have that discussion about cheesesteaks. So
Ooh.
right. So
okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I like those things with provolone. Everybody's like, that's the real thing. You need Cheese Whiz, and I'm like, but I hate.
No, you don't need Cheese Whiz. You don't need Cheese Whiz, but you don't need provolone. I mean, I like provolone, but I like it on a hoagie, or as some people in Philadelphia say, hoagie.
Hoagie.
It goes down with the water. Yeah, you don't want to have if you order a provolone, a cheesesteak with provolone, you're going to get a lot of neck swivels, and people are going to know you're nowhere near from Philly. So you just say wit, and you'll be good.
Wit.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
No, please. This is how we go.
These are all survival techniques when you go from city to city, right?
Yeah.
You need to know that.
Yeah.
You know?
This is how our conversations go because, like I said, this show stemmed from table conversations where we would start on one subject, and an hour later we've hit 20 other subjects. And sometimes when we were playing role-playing games, we would call that our window of opportunity to get back to what we were doing. So strictly hypothetically, if you could sit down with one of the serial killers, and you may have really already answered this, who would it be and why? Ed Kemper?
Kemper, yeah. Sorry. I mean, I know I keep on beating that horse, but Kemper would be one, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he just seems fascinating to me.
I agree.
He seems to be open to talk to people, so go be it.
And that's what we have talked about on the show many times is I hate when the serial killer is killed because we need to study them more.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to find out what turned that key. We've got to be able to figure this out because it is not normal human behavior to want to murder and murder and murder and murder. Something turned that key. That's where I go back to the McDonald triad. Are some of those what turned that key, or was it something else? We've got to do more studying on this. Serial killers and family annihilators are the two that we have to study more. Family annihilators especially because there's very little research on that so far, psychologically speaking. So
I agree.
So what's next for you? Do you plan on expanding this into more books, maybe an international edition?
I have friends down in Brazil, and they were saying, "Are you going to do one down here?" So, and in the first book, I do cover international serial killers, so there is some validity to it. But I wouldn't mind going to Brazil for a little while, doing some research.
Oh yeah, especially near a carnival.
Research, yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, there'll be another book. I have a couple ideas doing.
I look forward to it. The final question I have, and in the spirit of your warning in the book, since writing the books you have written, do you double lock your doors at night?
I don't. I figure if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and a lock's going to stop it. So,
Johnny, I really appreciate you joining us today on Nerdery and Murdery. This has been a fascinating book for me to read, and having this conversation about the serial killer travel guide across America. I love that I've discovered this book. I can't wait to pick up your other one, and I'm going to be on the watch out for others that you may do as well. You do a very, very good job. I have found myself laughing with the book, and at the same time as I turn the page, I'm like, hey, I covered him. Hey, I covered him. Hey, ooh, I haven't covered him. I need to look him up.
He's farming you for research, man.
I mean, the last episode we just recorded this weekend was episode 225. So I've covered a lot of them in the last 4 years. But I love seeing different takes on it. Did we do 226?
No, you're right. It's 225. You're right.
I generally am. But this has been fascinating. I've absolutely loved the book. Like I told you, as soon as I found out about this book, I went immediately to my wife and I said, "Honey, I'm about to buy something and I need it." You know, it's the whole I have to have it, and like I said, I love it. I'm so happy to have this book.
Was she
I'm
not
enjoying
interested
it.
in it? Because
She's not as interested in a true crime as I am.
okay, you know,
She'll watch detective shows and
okay,
espionage and things like this, whereas I'll watch a true crime documentary. You know,
right.
the Texas Killing Fields. I watched that documentary, which I thought was great. I love watching them. I love when new ones come out, and I love humor at the same time. I'm a huge fan of Murders Only in the Building.
Mm.
You know, because it's some campy humor, and I have a very twisted sense of humor.
Perfect.
So,
well, Johnny, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to a couple of
absolutely.
knuckleheads.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, one
Jeff,
researcher and a knucklehead.
Well, I say it on the show frequently. He's an idiot. So, he and I have known each other. I'm not going to tell the story here. But he and I have known each other technically since high school, realistically since our 20s, and we've been through a lot together. Our producer Will is who really prompted us to do this show, sitting around listening to us talk, just being idiots.
He was laughing so hard he couldn't make noise. Like he started to hyperventilate a little bit. He's like, "You guys need to be on the radio."
But yeah,
well, I
Johnny,
thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. I really do. You are our debut author to have interviewed on the show.
We've never interviewed anybody.
Well, technically, we have. We had two geeks and a microphone and three geeky dads. We've had them on the show, but it wasn't really an interview. We were just round tabling it. For our listeners, if you've ever been curious outside of the show about the darker side of America's history, I love history. Or if you're a true crime fan looking for something that blends humor with deep research, this is a book you do not want to miss. Absolutely. It's designed like a retro travel guide as we talk, but instead of pointing you to the scenic overlooks, the diners, you're going to go on a coast-to-coast tour of the places and learn about some of the most infamous killers in America's history. Johnny, I know where I got it. Where can our listeners grab the Serial Killer Guide Across America, your coast-to-coast tour of terror?
You can get it via Amazon or Barnes & Noble and all of the online stores, BookBub and some independent stores as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your insights in this, the process that went into the book. And honestly, let's face it, Lee, you're going to give people a good reason to make sure their doors are locked at night. For all of our listeners, I thank you for dropping in, joining us here on a very special Nerdery and Murdery, or just Murder if you want. If you did like this episode, please do not hesitate to purchase this book. You will absolutely love it. As far as us, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share this episode with your friends. We've got many more stories to come in the world of Nerdery and Murdery coming your way. We're not stopping anytime soon, because the sad, unfortunate truth is true crime ain't stopping. I've got plenty more I have not run out of material. I am shocked after 225 episodes. I have not run out of material yet.
And on the other side, I have plenty of bullshit. So
yeah, that's very true. Oh, there's that E. Now I got to put that explicit mark.
You got to put the E on there.
Which is always us. But again, Johnny, thank you very, very much. Listeners, stay nerdy, stay safe. Maybe think twice about planning the next road trip. And to our good friend Chuck, sleep if you can.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your not nerdery.
And I've been Jeffrey with your murdery.
Cue the music.